Hello and welcome back to the Touchline, yet another edition with myself, Uarabi Lady Poko. Tonight, we're having a little bit of a recap show and also a throw forward because so many of the leagues are coming back. It is your first time joining the Touchline. This is the podcast that deals with everything that has to do with your football news internationally as well as locally. This past weekend, we just had the Carling Black Label Cup. As you can see, I am dressed up in my black and white. Unfortunately, my team, though, did not do what I thought they would. Kaiser Chiefs getting that much needed victory, especially what happened over the past couple of weeks with them with regards to the cap final when they lost, but also now they are one win more needed, rather, one more win needed for them to equal Orlando Pirates one with 5 victories to their name for the Carling Black Label. As we know, the derby these days is not the same as old. Usually there are no goals, and that's exactly what happened this past weekend. The game ended 0-0 at full time, but also Kaiser Chiefs had the opportunity to have won the game with a penalty that they had received due to Nyauza being fouled, or Nyauza rather, making a foul in the box. Unfortunately, Daniel Cardoso could not convert because Richard Ofori showed why he is Orlando Pirates' #1 goalkeeper. But also in the game, we had several chances where Timbingosi Lodge himself could have won the game. And we all know if Lodge had scored, it probably would have been a victory for Orlando Pirates because Lodge is the top goal scorer in the derby. But congratulations to Kaiser Chiefs. Thank God we didn't have to see any tears. We didn't have to see anything on the TLs. They were happy. And that is how the Carling Black Label has kicked off, or rather is now finished, and making way for the DSTV Premiership that will be starting mid-August. We know that there's some big games, and some of these teams have already signed some phenomenal players. Just there also in the pictures, you saw the likes of Keegan Dolly, who has recently signed for Kaiser Chiefs. But now I want us to look at a team that I think a lot of people might be disappointed in because there was so much hope and so much promise for these youngsters to join the DSTV Premiership clubs. That is the under 23 at the Tokyo Olympics. Tokyo 2020. Group A, Bafana Bafana found themselves in there. They were mixed with Japan, Mexico, and France. Unfortunately, in the first game, they lost a solitary goal, a Kubo strike, losing 1-0 to Japan. And that was the one game where I actually thought, the last 10 minutes, they actually played like they wanted to equalize and maybe even win it. Unfortunately, the doors were not with them. Kubo got his solitary strike and make sure that Japan got the victory in that very first game. And another game that was thrilling, exciting, and everybody kept talking about because it had some really good pointers. That is Tebo Homokwena's strike. I think undoubtedly can be a contender for one of the goals of the tournament. But unfortunately, South Africa went down 4-3 to France in a game that had all 7 goals being scored in the last 30 minutes. Yes, we can say it's thrilling, but also we question a lot of the defending because 7 goals in a game is hardly anything that we get to hear in football right now. And unfortunately, in the last game that they played against Mexico, losing 3 goals to 0. I think one thing that this team honestly did lack was that communication between the defense and goalkeeper Ronan Williams, because as much as they conceded 8 goals in the 3 matches, it could have been a lot more just based on the communication between him and his defenders. It was non-existent, and unfortunately, they got punished. And also in the process, this under 23 team at the Olympics has now gotten one of those titles you do not want to have because this time around, they failed to score a single point. They did not even get 1 point in this tournament, having managed 3 group points already in 2000 in Sydney, and also having managed 2 points in Rio in 2016. This time around, unfortunately, this team could not make it possible. Where to from now? The future looks a little bit bleak for South African football as a whole. But also looking at what happened with the Tokyo team, 5 players had to pull out due to medical reasons long before the tournament began. And also once they did touch down, we had Kamogelo Matlhatsi as well as Thabiso Monyane who tested positive for COVID-19. So this team actually went through every single emotion you can think of, and they represented. They went there. They played the ball as we know that they can. But unfortunately, it was just not good enough. But now I want to talk about all the recent transfers that have come up, starting off with the local ones. Like I mentioned, that Keegan Dolly is back for Montpellier. He has signed with Kaizer Chiefs, and we're yet to see him in the jersey. There he is right there on our screens. He's back in South Africa and he has signed for Amakosi. What Amakosi will do next season, we are yet to see because they've made a couple of other signings, such as the likes of Cole Alexandra, who was playing his football in India, as well as the goalkeeper of the weekend, really. That is Brandon Peterson, who signed on a free. So Kaizer Chiefs are now able to sign players and they are doing the business now in off season. Looking at some of the other teams that have also gotten a few new players, Cape Town City signing the likes of Kanisile Mayo from Richards Bay, as well as Darren Keat from Cape Umoya. Some of the other big signings, we can honestly look at the fact that Bloemfontein Celtics are banned from signing players. So they have now taken the place of Kaizer Chiefs last season. They cannot sign any players this season. Regulations have stipulated. And then we have Sundowns, who obviously continue to sign new teams every season. This season so far, they've signed the likes of Thabiso Kutumela, who was the captain at Maritzburg United, as well as Grant Kikana from Super Sport. But then also some of the big names that are making a name for themselves. We are now moving internationally. That is now looking at all the friendlies that are taking place now. The Lion of Judah, Percy Tau, has finally scored his first goal for Brighton in a friendly against Luton Town. Brighton winning that game by 3-1. Man, it was a classic, a Percy Tau goal in pre-season that I am so excited to see him in, because I think his best is only now coming to Brighton. And speaking of Brighton, Brighton have just gotten a cash load for the defender in Ben White. Ben White is selling for a cool 50 million to Arsenal. That is the one signing that Arsenal have made, on top of the others such as Nuno Tavares from Benfica, as well as Albert Simba Lokonga from Anderlecht. So Arsenal have been doing the business in this off-season. Hopefully this will get them back to winning ways in the Premier League and also a little bit higher up the table. And then looking at other teams that are also busy this season has to be the likes of Leeds. Leeds getting their man Jack Harrison finally, after being on loan for 3 seasons from Manchester City. He has finally signed for Leeds United. Leeds have also gotten the signature of Junior Filippo from Barcelona, as well as Luis Bate from Chelsea. And looking at some of the other teams that have made big signings, that is Manchester United finally getting the man in Jadon Sancho, as well as a 41 million rand signing of Rafael Nadal from Madrid. Manchester United seem to be coming for all that is owed to them. Let's see what they can produce this season. But also looking at some of the news that is happening now in football, Harry Kane has failed to show up for his first day at Tottenham training. He was due to return. The way we understand the story is Harry Kane says him and Tottenham had a gentleman's agreement last season to say that will be his last season. He really does want to see himself moving forward and moving on to a new team. But Tottenham, however, have another story in saying there's no such thing. Harry Kane is still their player. And this is also still in line with the fact that Manchester City have already made a bidding for Harry Kane that doesn't seem to be going anywhere because nobody seems to be touching on it. But then also in another 100 million rand deal, or rather question, as they wave around the money, Manchester City have also drawn up $100 million contract to Jack Grealish and Aston Villa. What Aston Villa chooses to do, whether they will be letting go of their skipper, that is another thing. And I think why this deal is also $100 million is because Jack Grealish last season did sign a new contract. a 5-year contract rather with Aston Villa. So that is another team that has also been very busy in this off season, getting the likes of Emiliano Buendia signing from Norwich, as well as Ashley Young coming back to the Premier League, having played with Inter and also winning that Scudetto, as well as Josh Fleeny, who they have signed from Fleetwood Town. That is all that I have right now for the Touchline news. If you want any more news from us, or rather just engage with us, please do find us on all our social media platforms. That is Touchline SA on Instagram, as well as Touchline SA on Twitter. Or better yet, hit me up on my socials. That is at Owarebile or at Touchline SA, as I said previously. That is all from my side. My name is Owarebile for the Touchline. Until we meet again,